Well, there were a group of Indian expats who've lived and worked in Kuwait for years and years who decided to take it upon themselves to stage a public protest against Nupur Sharma's prophet comments. Those are images you see on your screens of the Fahaheel protest in Kuwait, where Indian expats participated in that protest. Now you would think that's not a big deal. They were protesting against something that the entire Islamic world was angry about, so they wouldn't be in any trouble. The problem is, in Kuwait, it's illegal for non-locals of any kind to indulge in sit-in protests or public protests of any kind. And that's why every one of those Indians who was part of that protest is about to have their visa cancelled and is about to be deported from Kuwait, likely never to return again. Take a This protest involving Indian expats in Kuwait against Nupur Sharma has had very serious consequences for them. The Kuwaiti government has issued orders for these expats' visas to be cancelled and for them to be deported out of the country immediately. And that's not the end of the trouble. Their crime, participating in a public protest against the comments made by BJP spokesperson Nupur Sharma on the Prophet. Kuwait does not allow foreign workers to organize sit-ins or hold demonstrations, and there's every possibility that the expats could be blacklisted from ever returning to Kuwait.
This is the ground where protesters made their protest in Fahaheel, Kuwait. The masjid is close by. Last Friday, after the afternoon prayers, the protesters made a big protest over here.
One of the richest Gulf countries with a petroleum-based economy, Kuwait has very clear no-tolerance rules. Come and earn a living, but no disturbing law and order, and definitely no protests.
As per the Kuwait law, no expats are supposed to make any public protest where this law has been broke by these expats, and Kuwait government is taking a strict order. This is a big lesson for all the expats not to make any public protest because they will be deported. This is Geeta reporting from Fahaheel, Kuwait for India Today.
And I want to get a live perspective from Kuwait on just how much trouble these Indian expats are in. I'm joined by local Indian journalist Jeeves Erinjeri, who has lived in Kuwait for the last 27 years in Kuwait, and he joins me. Jeeves, thank you very much for being with me. Can you begin by telling us what is the current situation as far as these Indian expats is, who work in Kuwait, who are part of this protest? What kind of trouble are they in? We hear their visas are about to be cancelled and they're going to be sent home forever.
Actually what has happened is, as per the Kuwaiti law, no expats are supposed to make any protest, public protest. So that's the Kuwait law. So now that the law has been broke by these expat people. So what the Ministry of Interior has decided to arrest them and deport from this country. That's the present scenario from Kuwait, because no expats are supposed to make any public protest. So now they have broke the law. So that is the present decision from the Kuwait government.
Jeeves, has the decision already been taken by the Kuwaiti government? Their visas will be cancelled now and they will be deported. Is that decision final and irreversible?
Definitely they will be deported, because the Kuwait government is very particular on implementing their laws. They don't give any consideration. Actually, what I feel that when they went for a protestation, when they went for a protest, they might have felt that it will be slightly soft-cornered. But Kuwait government is very particular on their, especially with their labor law and things like that. They are not supposed to make any kind of protest or any strikes, even any job issue also. They are not supposed to make any public protest. Earlier also instances has happened. Those who have protested for some labor issues, they have been deported. So government is very strict and very particular about that.
Do we know how many Indians were part of this protest, Jeeves? How many are about to be sent home, deported from Kuwait?
Exact number, I am just working on it and I can get back after a while. But there are Indians over there. Indians are there.
How long will it take for them to be deported? This decision has been taken by the Kuwaiti government. How long before they, the axe falls and they have to get out of the country?
there won't be much delay for that, because these things, they will make it very fast. Within a couple of days, they will be deported.
And the journalist who broke that story, which has been followed by all media, is India Today's Foreign Affairs editor. Jeeves, thank you very much for that update from Kuwait. Is Geeta Mohan, our Foreign Affairs editor, who broke that story. She joins me live. You know, Geeta, this is really bleak for these people. I mean, many of them must have been working in Kuwait for many years now. This is looking bad. I hear that not only are they going to have their visa cancelled and, you know, have to leave Kuwait, but it's likely that they won't be allowed entry into any of the GCC countries. You know, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman, and Bahrain, and things like that. It looks like the Gulf is out of bounds for them. This is huge.
Well, Shiv, if they're blacklisted, they certainly cannot work in any other Gulf country, because they will be looking at the track record. And if there is a deportation black mark, that's a huge mark for any expat. And that's the reason why they will not be allowed to work or enter any other country. Having said that, there's a very fine line over here. Kuwait did condemn the action or the statement. But people and expats living over there, whether they're Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, even some Egyptians, thought they could cross that line with Kuwait. But the government of Kuwait has made it very clear, as do most of the Gulf nations, because they need to deal with the outside world in a different manner. And for them, it's very clear that when outsiders enter their country, they have to adhere to the laws of the land. And over here, those laws were violated, those rules were violated, and therefore, all these people, all these expats, Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, and some Egyptians, will have to bear the brunt of the law in Kuwait, wherein they are yet to be informed. But there's a process in place, and that process is already kicked off.
What does their future look like? I know that's a broad question and there are not many answers, but the Indian embassy in Kuwait clearly can't do very much for them, as Jeeves Erinjeri just, said very clearly. In fact, he had a bit of a scoff and a laugh. He said, no, the Indian embassy doesn't get into that stuff. Once the axe falls from the Kuwaiti government, that's pretty much it. The Indian embassy is there to facilitate, documents and things like this. But if you run afoul of the law, then it's curtains for you. So I'm wondering, once they're deported, what happens when they come back to India? Will they just have to start afresh? I mean, these are Indian citizens after all.
See, Shiv, a very important point over here, because the embassies in Gulf nations, Kuwait, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, you name it, we have cases on a daily basis wherein people are coming with their problems. They actually are dealing with a lot of labor issues, and where genuine Indians are being, their own rights are being violated in these countries. They do not have time or the bandwidth to look at violators of laws in that very country.
Yeah.
So over here, in all probability, the mission is going to stay away and let the laws of the land decide as to what their fate should be. But once they return, things are going to look difficult, because like Jeeves described, most of them are from the labor force.
Yeah.
So coming back and finding employment is going to be very difficult. Also, this is only the beginning. It was Kuwait. There are many other countries. If there were people are trying to or planning to organize such protests, it's also a lesson for them that while these countries have already marked their condemnation or marked their protests, they themselves would not like expats indulging in political activities, and demonstrations and protests come and are a part of a political activity as they describe it in their own documents or rules.
It's a difficult situation for these persons, and really a message of how different these countries are from India.